Hello everyone! Today we're going to start doing the drawing for our ocean printmaking project. Now the point that I'm touching, that's the inner corner, and you have these curving lines here. These are your guidelines. So you're going to be drawing your ocean scene, including all of your animals and bubbles and details, and you're trying to follow the curves, like put your images into the curves and create these like repeated bands of design. So that way when we do print it, it will overall create this illusion of a circular design. So any animals you put in that normally would be super straight, like a swordfish or like the shark on this, you're having to like curve those lines so that they would fit into the work. So you're just kind of lightly draw those things in. There's lots of sheets to help you out with this step. After you've finished, your design should look quite full. So I'm just adding a last few thing in my top outer corner. But you can see that I have like large fish, smaller fish, jellyfish. Bubbles are a great little, filler, including little fish as well. When you're done with that, we're now going to transfer it onto the foam. So they should be the same exact size. Taking a couple pieces of Scotch tape, you're just going to put like hinges of tape from the paper wrapping around the edge of the foam. Try to pick a spot where there's not a ton of design and you're not going to have to draw in that area. The next step is going to be to trace all of your drawing. This part is tricky because pressure is really important. This is like the Goldilocks zone. You don't want to press too hard because you could potentially rip your paper and even rip through the foam. And you don't want to press too light because then you won't be able to see your design. It's going to hurt your hands. They're going to cramp up a little bit. When you're done tracing everything, take the tape off. Keep the drawing just in case. And then now you can see the design's been pressed in. We're going to repeat the tracing just to press those lines in a little further. Again, this is kind of a day of hand tiredness, hand cramping. We're really using our muscles on this one. So using your steady pressure, don't puncture, don't rip or tear this very thin piece of foam. When you're done, stick a piece of masking tape and use a Sharpie to mark this as yours. We're always keeping things in our sketchbooks, but in case it falls out, we'll be able to identify it. Now we're ready to print. So we have the inside corner located, and on the back of it, I'm going to draw an arrow to that because we're rotating this printing plate every single time we ink it up. So our materials are going to be this printmaking ink. You'll want to make sure that you're wearing a smock when you use it. You'll scoop it out, and I can help you with this part. We don't want to put too much on. So you'll spread some, use the brayer. See how I'm pulling the brayer down, pushing it back up, even rotating the plate so that way I can like ink it up in both directions, trying to create this like velvety appearance to the printmaking ink. You're going to get a little messy in the process, so feel free to like keep a wet rag next to your spot so you can kind of clean up as you go. You'll need a piece of scrap paper underneath. Then you're going to roll the ink on. And notice, see how I'm pointing with my hands like there's a difference between the colors of pink? You want them all to look very much the same. You want to have that same velvety texture over the whole printing plate. So when you're inking it up, you're going to have to go over it a few times. Now you can grab your final paper, which is going to be a square. Write your name on the back. Again, I'm trying to be really careful because I got pink on my hand. Your first print is going to go in one of the corners, and you want to make sure that that arrow is pointing towards the center. The arrow is probably the most important part so that you're rotating it correctly. Gently line it up with the corner, real light pressure for this part, and then you're going to carefully flip it over without getting ink on other parts of it. And using a flat hand, you have to rub completely. So you're going over the entire foam square. You can feel it through the paper, rubbing up and down or in small circles. You shouldn't be using a ton of hard pressure. You're not wanting to like rip or tear anything, but definitely use firm pressure. And then you can peel this off and see I have my first corner printed. You don't need to wash your printing plate. You just are going to continue repeating these steps. We can add a little bit more ink to your tray as you go. For the second one, again, watch for that corner. Line it up with the edges. There shouldn't be like a white strip of paper on the edge. Your plate should match perfectly. Flip it over, continue this process until you have printed all 4 corners. The ink is going to be wet while you do this, so if you want to take a break, go use the hair dryer or just kind of like air dry it a little bit. That way you're not accidentally messing up your first couple prints. After you pull your last print, you should be able to see your radial design. Please put that on the drying rack, and then you're just going to use water, maybe a little bit of soap, and clean off your printing plate. This should stay in your sketchbook. The idea is you can make as many copies as you will need down the road. Welcome back. We're going to work on the scuba diver that's going to be placed over your radial design. Here are the steps we're following to draw our scuba diver. Drawing a wireframe body first, and then we're going to go over everything and do a bubble frame body. Once you get that done, then you can flesh it out, showing the clothing and the details. All right, now that your scuba diver is colored and cut, you are going to attach some cardboard pieces to the back of him and then stick him on your radial print. So using just some small squares of cardboard, feel free to cut things down smaller if you have skinny areas. Using white glue, you're just going to put little dots of glue on the cardboard and try to spread them out so that way your scuba diver is going to have a little bit of like cardboard backing all over the back, just so that way he's raised off of the print. If you want him to be sticking off even further, you could double up or triple up some of these cardboard pieces just to make sure that, you're really getting the depth that you want. Here I'm just checking to make sure that things are seeming pretty glued on and that I'm not going too fast, because then the next step is to add the glue back to these and flip them over and place him in the center of my finished design. As always, just be really careful with this process so that you're not ripping or getting glue on anything. Ultimately, your scuba diver should be somewhere towards the center of this ocean that is swarming and swimming around him. I hope you enjoyed this project.